Hey there. Today, Daisy's Tale and I are going to talk about Matt Dineman, Dungeon Crawler Carl, and why I say that he is the Taylor Swift of publishing. So stick around and see more of my cat's tail and find out what I mean. Hey there. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. I'm John Hartness. I'm the founder and publisher of Falstaff Books, as well as the author of multiple ongoing series, including Quincy Harker Demon Hunter, Bubba the Monster Hunter, and the Black Knight Chronicles, just to name a few. And the furry companion that you'll be seeing popping in and out of frame today is Daisy, our little Siamese mix that showed up on my porch one day about 3 years ago. But today I want to talk to you about this guy, Matt Dineman, author of Dungeon Crawler Carl, author of Battlefield Kaiju Battlefield, whatever. Matt, what's the name of that friggin' book? Kaiju Battlefield Surgeon? Anyway, and the upcoming book, Operation Bounce House. And I want to draw some parallels between Matt Dineman and Ryan Coogler and Taylor Swift. So we're going to get a little inside baseball on artistic endeavors and artistic industries. So stick with me if you want to see behind the curtain in some publishing stuff and a little bit of music industry and filmmaking stuff. So why do I say, Daisy, honey, could you maybe not? Thank you. Why do I say that Matt Dineman is the Taylor Swift of books? It's not because he has great legs or is engaged to an NFL tight end. Matt is not engaged to any NFL players, for the record. He does have decent legs, just putting that out in the universe. But what I'm getting at when I call Matt the Taylor Swift of books is that right now he is uniquely positioned to be a game changer in publishing, because Taylor Swift has absolutely been a game changer in the music industry, just like Ryan Coogler has recently been a game changer in the film industry. And let's start with Ryan Coogler. But first, not at all sponsored by Mountain Dew, but very much fueled by it. Okay. So why do I say that Ryan Coogler is a game changer in the film industry? Is it because he's a brilliant director? No, although he is. His work on the Creed franchise, on Black Panther was amazing, but it's Sinners that's got him on the tip of everybody's tongue as we get closer to award seasons and things like that. And it's deservedly so. Sinners is an incredible movie, incredibly acted, incredibly well directed, and more importantly, for those of us who work in creative spaces, potentially a game changer in the industry. Why is that? Usually, directors, filmmakers make a movie, it gets distributed, they get paid. Maybe they've cut a deal where they get back end points, maybe not. Maybe they negotiate their deal so that there actually is back end. Maybe they get caught up in Hollywood accounting and back end doesn't really happen. But they don't own the movie. Owning the film is something that only happens at the teeny tiny indie level as a rule. Usually it's the producers or the distributors or the big studio who's footing the bill that owns the movie forever and ever, amen, until they sell it, if they do, as part of some kind of licensing, bankruptcy, creative accounting, reshuffling, whatever Hollywood BS people do with numbers to make themselves look rich to the people who they're borrowing money from, and poor to the people who are figuring out their tax bills. Ryan Coogler put in his contract for Sinners that after 25 years, he owns all rights to the movie. Let that sink in for a second. That means that the studio who foot the bill gets to make all the money they can for 25 years, but then all the rights for distribution, for any kind of reissuing, anything, streaming, however we're watching movies 25 years from now, that all goes back to Coogler. This isn't done. It doesn't happen in the film industry for a big picture. And look, Sinners was not a big picture in the sense of a Lord of the Rings or $100 bajillion blockbuster, but it was a major studio motion picture. And by the way, I feel like Michael B. Jordan deserves 2 Oscars for his performance in that film, because I legit, watching that movie, had to look up on IMDb to confirm to myself that that was the same actor playing 2 roles. That's how good Jordan is in Sinners. But Coogler negotiating to get all the rights back for his movie is an absolute game changer in Hollywood. It opens the door for other A-list big deal directors to put the same thing in their contracts. And then as time goes on, you'll probably find actors negotiating this into contracts if it's a project that they have developed. And then eventually I expect you'll see this happening on television as well, where production companies, showrunners, creators negotiate that after a period of time, they own their creation. Why do I care? Why does a mid-list fantasy writer care what's happening in Hollywood? One, I someday want to have some of my products made into TV or movies, and I will absolutely care because it will absolutely affect me. And 2, because creative industries are incestuous and kind of copycats. So things that happen in film then transfer over and happen in music and television and theater and literature. And obviously, I'm significantly more concerned with what happens in the book world than I am right now what happens in Hollywood or in music, but it's all connected. Anything that any creator in any industry does, and Daisy's back, that's why the camera shook. Hello, sweetie. Anything any creator does that puts more power in their hands can have a ripple effect into other industries. See, I told you Daisy was back. And that will affect all of us. Do I think that Ryan Coogler getting the rights back to Sinners in 25 years is going to change the way publishing is done? No. Do I think that authors demanding sunset clauses in their contracts may have bled over into Coogler demanding a sunset clause in his contract? Maybe. Don't know. I don't know what Ryan Coogler knows about publishing or any other piece of the industry. But this ties directly in to things that Taylor Swift is doing in the music business, in the sense that she just bought her masters back. Now, for those of you who don't know bupkis about music, and I do not work in the professional music album creating public music publishing space, so everything I know, I got off watching the Top Music Attorney YouTube channel and other folks who know way more than me. But my understanding is that music, there are two licenses. There's the songwriting license, and then there's the master recording. And the person that writes the songs, person or persons, because a lot of times songs are written by 2 or 3 people working together, anytime the song is recorded, they're getting a cut. But the playback is often, as I understand it, and I could be completely wrong, but the playback, you're getting paid off the masters. Now, the artists and the writers are getting a piece of it, but the bulk of it goes towards the people that own the master recordings, and this is usually the record label. Famously, Taylor Swift had a falling out with her record label at the time, and that's why she started re-releasing early albums called Taylor's Version, which, by the way, I ripped off in one of my short stories. If you pick up our anthology Nevermore, I called my short story in there Red parentheses Quincy's Version. And whenever I sign one, I sign it with Taylor Swift lyrics of, "Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me." Because one, Taylor Swift is awesome. And two, this was my version of a Mask of the Red Death story. So I was riffing on there being an album called Red, Taylor's Version. This is Red, Quincy's Version, because you can't copyright a title. And it was also a riff on what she was doing, because I was creating a derivative work, whereas she was recreating her own work. But anyway, pick up Nevermore. It's a fun anthology of Edgar Allan Poe stories. And what she did when she released these new versions is she frankly devalued the original master recordings of those albums, which is a brilliant move because she tried to buy the masters back, and her former record label, they couldn't come to an agreement, whatever. Well, she recently bought her masters. Now, other artists have done this in the past, but famously, sometimes the artists and the artists' families don't own the rights to the song. For a long time, Apple Music, which not the software, but the Apple Music label, which was the Beatles record catalog, for a long time, none of the Beatles had any ownership of those songs because they'd been sold, and the masters and the publishing on those had been sold. But what Taylor Swift has done, just like what Coogler has done, is she has asserted control over her creative property. Now, both Taylor Swift and Ryan Coogler had a couple of things that most of y'all and I do not have. Massive success to back it up. Taylor Swift is not really arguably one of the biggest musical acts in the world. Ryan Coogler is one of the most successful directors of the last decade. They have leverage, and they knew how to use it to protect their creative endeavors. And that's what Matt Dineman has done. So I'm not saying that Matt Dineman is the Taylor Swift of publishing because he has legions of rabid fans, although he does. I'm not saying that Matt Dineman is the Taylor Swift of publishing because he's basically a crazy cat lady, although he is. I'm not saying that he's the Taylor Swift of books because he's a blonde, because he's not. I'm saying he's the Taylor Swift of books because he got a unicorn of a publishing deal. When Dungeon Crawler Carl went from being a purely self-published book to being a New York published book, Matt kept the audio and the ebook rights and the first print rights. What do I mean when I say that? Okay. When you sign a publishing contract, it lays out what rights that publisher is looking to acquire. And generally, for example, in the Falstaff Books contract, we ask for print, ebook, and audio. Some contracts ask for more. They ask for film adaptation rights. They ask for graphic novel rights. They ask for stage performance rights. We don't ask for any of those rights at Falstaff because I don't have a good way to monetize those rights. I don't know how to make a TV show. So I'm not going to take the television rights to a book. If someone approaches me about making a TV show or movie out of a book that we've published, I will contact the author and work with the author and this producer and maybe try to get it all worked out, as much help as I can possibly be, which is not much. And maybe I'll get a little tiny piece of it, but I don't have those rights. All of those rights remain with the author. But it's normal in publishing that the publisher won't take on a book unless you get print, ebook, and audio. Audiobook is often negotiable with smaller presses, and a lot of times we don't take audio. If the author comes to us and says, I have a deal with Recorded Books or Podium or anybody else out there, and they want to do my audio, I'm like, okay, well, we'll take print and ebook. It's really rare that an author can sell print only. And one of the reasons that it's rare that an author sells print only is because the last time somebody got a big print only deal from New York, it didn't go all that well for them. Hugh Howey, who created Wool, which you can now see on Apple TV as, I believe, Silo, they're very good books, and Hugh was one of the early pioneers in self-publishing success. And he sold a print-only deal for the Wool series. And they did okay, but they weren't blockbusters. And with New York publishing being very risk averse, it was quite a while before big publishers were willing to take that chance again. Now, it's worked out pretty well for them with Matt, but it took a long time and a lot of meetings for them to come to an agreement on this. And what also makes Matt very unique is that in addition to selling them the print-only deal for Dungeon Crawler Carl, he retained the ability to self-publish a first-run paperback of each book coming out so that his fans could get books that matched the ones on their shelves. So when the 8th book comes out next year, you can buy a print paperback of it. You can pre-order it right now. I believe it just went up for pre-order on Grim Oak Press's website. And don't know anything about this book, but as a rule, Grim Oak makes beautiful books. I have a lot of their limited editions behind me. This will not be that. This will look just like the other Dungeon Crawler Carl books, which are awesome covers. They're fun. And they'll match if you've got 1 through 7. But you don't get that deal. You certainly don't get that deal if you don't have some success. Now, after Matt got his deal, New York started looking around again at other self-published authors and other successful self-published series. And then all of a sudden, Dao Wong got a deal. Good for you, Dao. Rock on. But the We Are Legion, We Are Bob guy got a deal with Saga Press to do a nice hardcover of the first Bobaverse book. Rock on, Bob guy. Dennis something, and I'm really sorry that I blanked on your name, bud. I doubt you'll see this, but if you see it and I run into you later, remind me, I'll buy you a drink. I'm sorry. I really like the books though. But here's another thing that Matt has done that puts him in that Taylor Swift, Ryan Coogler category of game changers, of seismic activity within publishing. He didn't just sell the reprints to this. By the way, this is the Kickstarter edition of book 1, and the Kickstarter for book 2 and 3 is live right now, but only for a few more days. So if you're not watching this the day it dropped, you're probably going to have to do late pledges for that. But anyway, regardless, Matt sold the next book. Operation Bounce House is coming out in February, and it's coming out from Penguin Random House, and it's not a Dungeon Crawler Carl book. So this is not just New York doing what they've done many times, and that's grab a self-published property and repackage it and send it out the door and make money on it. This is them taking a self-published author and buying their next thing. So what do we, as independent creatives, need to be sure we do? We need to buy a couple of copies apiece of Operation Bounce House. Why? Because New York is very risk averse. These Dungeon Crawler Carl books are hitting the New York Times list every time a new one releases, and that's incredible. That's awesome. But if Operation Bounce House doesn't hit a major list, it's going to be another 5 or 10 years before New York takes a flyer on a new book by somebody who breaks big with a self-published property or a small press property. They're good at, oh, you've done really well with this thing, we'll buy this thing, and we'll all make money on it, and you'll get more money. And they do. I'm not saying New York's screwing anybody, because they're not. But as independent creators, we want a piece of the New York publishing pie. Of course we do. We don't necessarily want all the New York publishing headaches, but for certain properties, we'll take them. And to make sure that New York's risk-averse nature doesn't crap all over us, we need to make sure that we go out and support our buddies, the people that are out there getting those deals and transitioning from self-published success to traditionally published successes. People like Matt Dineman, people like Dao Wong, people like Dennis the Bobaverse guy, people like K.A. Lind, who's hit the Times list with her 2 New York published books, and now bigger presses are picking up her backlist, which is awesome. So go out there and support her stuff too. Anytime we can lend a hand to somebody else who's an independent creator, it's good for us. And Matt has the opportunity with Operation Bounce House to be a Coogler or a Swift level game changer. Does anybody know if Ryan Coogler is a cat person? Because that could be a common thread here. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say that Ryan Coogler is a cat person. After all, he directed Black Panther. How could he not be, right? Anyway, who are your game changers in media? Who else is out there that we need to wrap our indie rebel arms around and love them just like we love Princess Donut? Leave a note in the comments. And if you've stuck around this long, you may as well subscribe, give us a like, and if you really like the stuff that we're doing here on the channel, you can join us and become a member like these people right here. Because as you've probably heard from other YouTube creators, some things have tweaked with the algorithm and views are really down, and that hurts channels. So if you want to toss a coin to your Witcher, there's plenty of opportunities down in our description to pick up books from us, or you can join the channel and get our stuff a little early. Till next time, bye.